I saw here just on your bio something that I think many Americans don't realize. You hold an industrial engineering degree from the U.S. Military Academy at West Point.
I do.
Very interested. I'd be interested in your perspective as an industrial engineer on the challenge of the low carbon economy. And then I'm interested in your perspective on the national security implications based on your experience at West Point of what we face from unrestricted carbon.
Mm-hmm. So, as an engineer, for the first 10 years of my working life in the private sector, it made all the sense to move in this direction. It made all the sense as a business opportunity for those businesses that I was associated with. When you begin to deal with more efficient ways to use your energy, when you begin to deal with demand-side management programs, when you look at how you're using heating, how you're using air conditioning, how you are controlling buildings and processes, which are all aspects that an industrial engineer looks like, and you take out the fat and the excess of that, it all becomes a contribution directly to the bottom line. It's a clear-cut proposition. It's one that makes much sense in terms of the environment and in terms of the bottom line. When you look at this from a national perspective situation, it makes all of the sense in the world not to have the high dependency on imported fuels that some countries around the world today have. You could take out 20, 25, 30% of that just by becoming much more efficient. Why not do it? It makes economic sense at the same time. It creates jobs and opportunities within your economy. It's a no-brainer. The linkage between moving to the low-carbon economy and national security is clear. In the short term, it has to do with the use of resources in the way that I have mentioned. In the medium term, it has to do with avoiding conflict over scarcer resources that the world will have faced with a larger global population that will want to consume ever more. So if you can diminish your dependence today on imported fossil fuels, and we can all avoid conflicts tomorrow over diminishing resources, why not move in that direction?
And in the longer term, I guess we have the threat of climate change and what that might mean for a country like Costa Rica, sea level rise. Just interested in you studied this matter.
In the long term, assuming that we get to that long term, if we don't start moving and getting our act together, it means massive disruptions in terms of migrations, in terms of food production for livelihoods around the world, in terms of rising sea levels that would put under very serious constraints or very serious threats the hundreds of millions of peoples that live on the coastlines of the world. So when you look at that compendium, of course it makes all the sense to be able to move on these issues right now. Quite frankly, I have a hard time understanding what the arguments are for not moving on them.
I have just one more question. It seems like Costa Rica generates leaders who care a great deal about sustainable development, and is there some reason, something about the character of Costa Ricans as opposed to other countries in the hemisphere that leads to this?
I think there is, and quite frankly, aside from the ethical and the moral dimensions of this, which I don't want to underestimate in any way, we have been blessed in that respect because from very early on, Costa Ricans have understood that this is good business. Not depending on imported fossil fuels to generate our power is tremendous good business. Being able to develop and brand ourselves as the destination of ecotourism in a world where everything is becoming a brand is tremendous good business. Being able to accompany that branding by other competitive clusters that don't pollute, that don't emit as much as some other clusters is tremendous good business. So when you bring all of this together, I would say that every Costa Rican is touched by the fact that having incorporated the environment into our daily livelihood has become an opportunity for employment and for a quality of life that is way above the norm in our part of the world.
Very good. Thanks.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.